Hey, John, welcome
Hey,
back. It's time for another Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm well. I'm well. I've been fiddling with my microphone and it's not working, so I've had to switch over to the always reliable AirPods. So I hope you can hear me okay.
They sound just fine, man.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, so apparently it's our 50th episode that we've been doing on Twitch.
Okay.
So we tweeted out, I think, on our Twitter profile today that was like our 50th episode, which sounds like a pretty decent even numbers landmark, but I think is
Sure.
actually like the 250th Eat Sleep Code, something like that, because I've done
Nice.
this show on a podcast format for many years
Yes.
before.
Yes.
But unfortunately, since the pandemic has taken hold of everything we do, we have gone to this format for now. So normally
Works
I
for me.
travel to events and interview people, and John, you've
Yes.
helped me with some of those shows as well.
Yes. Yes.
So you'll hear John on those shows conducting interviews and things way back in the day at like Build and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when Build comes back in person, the show may come back too. But until then, we're just gonna riff on some links that we're sharing today.
Sounds good.
It's fun though. It's fun. It's a good way to spend an hour and learn about some things that are happening in the tech news and developer news. I thought this was a good way to start since we're on
Sure.
our quote 50th episode here. It's four
Sure.
times smaller and 50 times faster.
Yeah.
There's a joke in there somewhere. I'm not going to go there though, but yeah.
Yeah. So ASCII is the sort of textual format for a variety of character encodings. Unicode is another one, and ASCII is common for doing ASCII art. And so ASCII is
Mhm.
basically a way in which you can represent movies and GIFs using ASCII. And so I saw this a while back, and I thought it was kind of clever. And so this is an example of a Mandelbrot set, using ASCII art. So what the developers at ASCII did is they went ahead and converted a little bit of their code over to utilizing uh, a combination of technologies, namely Rust, WASM, etc. And they found
Mhm.
that as a result of that switch, they were able to get significant performance improvements while at the same time reducing some of the requirements relative to the way in which they were building the software previously. And I have to say that Rust is really impressive based on what I've seen. And the combination of JavaScript plus Rust is seems to be a very popular solution for a lot of developers. And I think Rust needs to be given its props relative to performance. The ones that kind of hit me on the radar screen are Go and Rust. I've got a lot
Yeah.
of experience with Go, especially around concurrency. It's great there. But Rust is one of those ones I haven't had a lot of experience with, so I'm willing to take a look at it now because of just how much you seem to benefit from performance, especially relative to C, C++. And the fact that they use WASM is also an interesting scenario to outline. WASM is one of those interesting sort of technologies. It's kind of anything like a technology is like this is interesting to the point where it actually becomes super mainstream. And where I'm seeing WASM really play out is in the plugin extensibility space relative to projects. So a lot of people
Mhm.
interpret WASM as, especially if you're .NET developers, I can take a project like the one you have here. I can go ahead and write it in whatever language I want that's oriented towards .NET if I want, and I can go ahead and run that within the context of the browser. But where it really seems to shine is on the server side, where people are utilizing WASM as a isolation boundary for hosting extensibility or plugins, basically, because it has really clean separation there, and it can actually have you have a multilingual runtime that can run performant in a performant manner and provides a
Mhm.
really nice sort of boundary for security context and whatnot. So for that reason, I think it's worth people's attention as well. This sort of stuff where you write "Hello World" is interesting, but I think in
Yeah.
terms of the back end where you're doing server extensibility is really interesting, and you're seeing some of that play out, namely with certain technologies that you're seeing in popular space around DevOps right now. So there's a technology called OPA, or the Open Policy Agent, and they're
Mhm.
utilizing or playing around with WASM as an extensibility mechanism. I know that there's Kubernetes is there's a variety of tools around Kubernetes that are looking at WASM. So on the server side, it certainly is playing out that way. And so just looking at a combination of Rust, WASM, etc., kind of piqued my attention.
Yeah, so I haven't really dabbled much with Rust, but I've done a lot of reading on it because it's, like you said, it's very interesting in the WebAssembly space.
Yeah.
This is a cool page that I don't know if too many people are aware of. It's by the folks at I think it's Mozilla, the Firefox people. Created this. It's called webassembly.studio. If you pop that in your address bar, it'll take you to kind of like a code pen or a Telerik REPL for Blazor type thing.
Yep.
And you can dabble with these different WebAssembly technologies. So I think what this is using behind the scenes is the Inscriptin compiler and that tool chain. And you can do the Hello World Rust example, and you've got, basically your structure here. It's probably using what's it called? The same editor from Visual Studio Code here.
Code? Monaco?
What's the name?
Monaco is the code name, yeah.
Yeah, Monaco, I think, is probably what's running this here. So it's very familiar when you open it up. And then there are some preloaded crates, I think. So crates in Rust are essentially NuGet packages and .NET or NPM packages.
Yeah, they're package mechanism. Yeah.
Yep, they're packaging. So there's some crates and things that are pre-installed here too, I believe. But here's your RS or your Rust file, and then this WASM bindgen is one of those helpers from a crate that will create a binding for WebAssembly from this attribute. So you're basically exposing this function to the outside world. You're making it public to the WebAssembly space. So when you consume it, you can run it in WebAssembly, and then you kind of hoist that up in JavaScript, and then you can call the function from within JavaScript.
Yes.
So it's very JavaScript friendly. This allows you to build very high performant things because this is a compiled language like C, but with compiler techniques that help with garbage disposal and that memory management. So you don't have to be like this expert in C to kind of write these C-like apps. So this is really cool. I like this WebAssembly Studio. It's a really neat place to kind of learn about these technologies. So then you can go, further and actually install them on your machine and check them out. So there's that. And I'm glad you brought this up, John. This is another article that I had tagged for today. This is Rust in Blazor WebAssembly.
So you got your peanut butter in my chocolate.
So what's really cool about Blazor WebAssembly and things like Rust is that Blazor can also interop with native assemblies in WebAssembly.
Yes.
So if you build something in Rust, take that Hello World example we just had, you can then pull those things into .NET through this DLL import.
Nice. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right inside of your WebAssembly application. So now you can import those Rust assemblies here and use those in here as well. So this is a nice blog post here. This one is called blazorspread.net. It's a blog about Blazor. And they had a pretty detailed post here on how to use Rust along with Blazor. Now, Steve Sanderson did some cool stuff with WebAssembly and this DLL import for .NET Conf a couple weeks ago. So what he actually did is compiled the MySQL code base, so it would run in the browser. And that might sound a little insane at first.
No,
the
it's
example.
Not because, there are reasons why you might want to have a database in your browser. So.
Yep. So what he did is he created like a cache of a much bigger database, so you could work offline and have that full database functionality. And I believe he was using Entity Framework and everything just to talk to it locally on the client.
Okay. Okay.
So I mean, that's pretty amazing stuff that you can do with WebAssembly. Rust just opens another avenue for that type of thing. I think this is really cool when you can start, you look at something like JavaScript, and you've
Yes.
got the node or npm package repository at your
Yes.
disposal, and
Yes.
then now you have the Rust assemblies at your disposal. And if you're using Blazor, you have both of those plus .NET. So
Sure.
you've got NuGet packages and npm
Yeah.
and anything that's WebAssembly, be it Rust or something else. And man, did that just open up like a whole bunch of avenues to make stuff
Sure.
very quickly.
So yeah, coming
And
full
so,
circle to the Eskinema. Sorry, I mispronounced it the first time. The Eskinema blog
oh
post.
shoot, you need to,
It's really interesting to see that they actually had a really good win in terms of performance and throughput and all that great stuff. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's not going to be for everyone, obviously, and there's a learning curve associated with all this stuff, of course. But yeah,
Mhm.
worth looking at.
Very cool. Glad you brought that up. That's that was a nice transition to some things I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
Uh, so this is we're gonna pivot over to some C# stuff for a few here.
Hmm.
This is a nice blog post about C#10 and Lambda expressions. There was a lot
Ah,
of stuff in C#10 that I just wasn't aware took place. So there were some new compiler behaviors and new ways of using Lambda expressions in C#10 that I think are really interesting. So they let you write these action and func delegates much easier now. So in the past, you'd have to declare upfront the type of these things.
yes.
You couldn't really
Yes.
assign them to a var because it's hard to distinguish as a var what the type is, because sometimes they look very similar, an action and a func. Essentially, I think all funcs uh, can be an action, actually. If I got that right. Not all funcs are actions, but all actions are funcs, something like that. But they're not the same type, even though they can do the same task. So it's kind of hard to do this, but they managed to work this out. And one of the examples here is before we couldn't infer the type of delegate you're trying to create here, so you can't really use var. In .NET 6, with some minor changes to that code, you can now do that. There's no errors. And he goes on to just define some more examples of how easy this is to do and how it can clean up your code. And I think it's a nice, short but sweet blog post about function delegates in C#10, something that I use quite often. So cool
Mm.
stuff there.
Yeah, it's starting to look more and more like Ruby every day.
Oh, Ruby's awesome though. I like
Yes.
Ruby. Ruby's
Yes, Ruby
Ruby's
is
one of
good.
those languages that the the language is, come for the ecosystem, stay for the language.
And don't repeat
Ecosystems
yourself. Make
kind of,
sure don't repeat yourself.
yeah, kind of okay. I wish there was some better platforms on it. I know Ruby on Rails is like huge still. I never could quite get into that, but the language itself, I wish I could have wrote more of.
Right.
Um, so talk about some GitHub Actions. Using
Yeah.
GitHub
So
Actions to update .NET
yeah, I'm a fan
dependencies.
of GitHub Actions. Obviously, you're doing anything with GitHub. GitHub Actions are the they're the secret sauce of doing things actually in a very productive manner. They allow you to do a lot of repetitive tasks quickly based on the actions you conduct against your repos, whether it's a check-in or
Mhm.
an issue or whatnot. So for a long time, there's been integration with repos called Dependabot, and what that does is for a variety of languages, Dependabot will notify you, hey, this dependency has been updated, that dependency has been updated. Do you wish to accept this pull request that I've auto generated for you? And typically those surface around like package.json or things like that. And so what
Mhm.
those would do is ultimately just say, hey, there's an update for foobar dot whatever dependency, and I've got the latest here. Do you want to update package.json? So what this is a blog post that talks about getting that similar type of mechanism into your repos that are based on .NET. So I think my recollection on this is accurate, but I don't believe Dependabot right now, which is supplied by GitHub, by the way, supports .NET. However, this is demonstrating how to kind of re-engineer, not re-engineer, but re-implement that behavior using GitHub Actions. And so the idea here is if you're maintaining a .NET repo, and you want to have this sort of Dependabot-like capability where it runs as like a cron job. So basically every 24 hours, every week, whatever you want, it will go out, scour the internet wherever you want to go, NuGet, whatever, and go and seek out your dependencies and say, hey, there's a new version of Blazor, or there's a new version of system.json or whatever, right? And I've got the update for you. It will patch your CS proj file. Away you go. And so using GitHub Actions, it's a way of, it will submit as a pull request, so you don't have to accept it, but you'll say, hey, here's an update, and you can accept it, and then just run your CI build.
And don't forget to run your tests to make sure it works.
Yes, and your tests. So yeah,
very cool.
I thought it was interesting. This is something we've used quite extensively in Go and JavaScript and TypeScript and a variety of other languages on GitHub. And I think it's probably worthwhile to do the same thing on .NET. So,
and you don't even have to write any code. It's all right here for you.
Well, it's YAML, so, your mileage may vary.
Code. All right. Speaking of coding, both of us grabbed this headline. JetBrains starts adding remote dev functionality on IDEs, introduces Fleet. And I'm not sure who's naming these products. Quit using Fleet, folks, please.
I know. I didn't get the name. I don't know why they called it Fleet. I guess it's I don't know. I don't like. I don't know,
but Twitter had that for a little bit for one of their features. In the US, this is a medical product. It's not a show friendly medical product either, but you don't want to Google it. Let's just say that. I mean, it's all right. It's not safe for work. It's just gross. All right. Don't want to Google that. So quit naming your products that. But anyway, besides that,
so Fleet
I thought this was pretty cool.
So Fleet is JetBrains' latest sort of. It joins Rider and a few other products that they've got, and it's basically their take on the next generation of IDE. It looks and smells a lot like code. And incidentally, I was reading comments online where people are like, I can't wait to get off code. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with code. What's wrong with you? But Fleet looks to be like the bee's knees. And, I've signed up and hopefully we'll get access to the alpha or whatever it is. I'd like to see it. Screenshots are good, but, at the end of the day, I gotta test this thing. So the things that we took away from this when we were looking at it on our team was it looks and smells great by the screenshots you got here. It looks like it has an extensibility model built in, and I'm hoping that they support the language server protocol because that will serve us well. The language server protocol is basically the way in which you can build integrations and extensions that utilize a transport mechanism for adding IntelliSense and things of that nature. It looks like it has that built in. You'll notice that it says coming soon under plugins. So we're keenly looking at that. Looks like they got a lot of remote development capabilities built in, multi-platform, all the stuff that you would expect, right? I don't know what the basis of this is. I know that that there's been a few blog posts written. I haven't had a chance to read all of them, but if you're looking for another IDE, Rider's not cutting it for you, or VS Code, or Sublime, or Notepad++, or whatever else there is. This is one more to enter the fray.
Yeah, I think the idea here is you're gonna run this in the cloud. So if you've got developers on the go, then this is a good fit.
Sure.
It's cloud hosted. So you don't have to pay the machine. If your machine goes down, you don't want to dev out until you can get them a new laptop and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They can just log into this. They've always got hardware that's up to date and fast. Compile things quickly. You got the power of the cloud at your hands here.
Yes.
So it's not like that machine's going to get outdated hardware wise quickly or anything.
No,
so I think there's a lot of merit here.
Yeah, we've been playing around with code spaces a little bit, and it's the real deal. It's great. I mean, and the billing's very affordable. Like I think I was looking at it, it was like $6 for like a month worth of usage, and I was using it quite a bit. And so, and you can tailor that, of course, and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. So they've got, you can,
Yeah.
if you need to, you can go up to 16 cores and 32 gigs of memory, and I don't know what you're
Yeah.
building with that, but there you go.
Node npm, just npm install.
Right.
You have to change that. That needs to be 400 gig if you're doing npm
Maybe.
install.
Yeah, node
all
modules
that,
gets
but
a bit big after a while.
yeah. This is really cool. The only downside I could see here is like kind of the obvious, like if your internet's out, like if you're on an airplane or something like that, maybe you're not getting a lot done. But I mean, who
Maybe.
really does that kind of work anyway? But just saying, this looks really
I like
good.
how everyone always says that. Like, I'm at the terminal, I'm doing a check-in, and I just want to be able to do it. And like, come on, like everyone's boarding the plane. You don't need to check in. You can wait, but whatever. Yeah.
The internet up there is so spotty anyway.
Well, yeah.
And
We've all been
then
on
you get out your
Boingo
phone,
internet,
play
so
games. I mean, come on.
yes.
Did we just do this one? Is this the
No,
same?
no. This is
okay.
a new feature
Other
of GitHub
GitHub
Actions. Yeah, so you can create composable workflows now in GitHub Actions, which is always nice. So there's a lot of repeatable stuff. There's a lot of ceremony you'll typically do with a GitHub action. So here's an example before and after, where you do a lot of ceremony. You log in, you pull down dependencies, you do this, you do that, and now you can actually just containerize that and make your actions composable. So this is something that's been requested for a long time, and now it's going to simplify your GitHub action workflows.
Yeah, it really looks like it's cutting down on that. The amount of configuration you're going to have to do. Good stuff.
Well, you'll still have to write it, but you can now put it somewhere. Yeah, you can reference it and put it somewhere now. So, yeah.
Yes, you don't have to repeat yourself. Gotcha.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. So,
I mean, the less YAML we have to write, the better, right?
Perfect.
Let's see. Announcements for AWS Reinvent 2021. Is this their big developer conference?
Big, yes. So AWS has a one-year event called Reinvent. It's a massive conference. Like, this makes build look like a user group meeting. Reinvent is massive. It's held yearly in Vegas. And this is Amazon's big sort of coming out party with all their new products, etc., all focused around AWS and all the Amazon Web Services stuff. So yeah, they've got a ton of announcements, and so they wrote this summary blog post that covers everything. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to cover, but there's a bunch of stuff that I even read today on Hacker News that there's a new private 5G service from Amazon. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but whatever. I mean, there's all this stuff that's going on. Yeah, I know. Okay. So anyways, lots of stuff worth checking out. If you're a developer who's targeting AWS, obviously this is stuff that you're going to want to look at. I can't really pick out or tease out the stuff that's going to be most relevant for you, the viewer. But this is the summary blog post to go check out if you're interested in getting a high level view of what happened. Reinvent's a massive conference. There's a lot of announcements, so I would pick and parse and read about it some more there.
It looks like G5G something.
It's 5. It's like a
tensor
5G
related.
Yeah, it's a private 5G. It's like 5G as a service. I don't know what this is. It's like Amazon announced this, and it's called 5G. It's called AWS Private 5G. Easily deploy, manage, scale a private cellular network. So
it is okay. It is that kind of 5G. Interesting.
Yeah, I think this was. I don't know if this was announced at AWS reInvent, but it's on Hacker News, and it's one of their top articles. So I saw that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not into cellular networks that much. Is my phone on? Great. Does it work? Yes. Good.
So here's something familiar with my neck of the woods. Fiddler Everywhere 3.0 sound.
Yeah, I'm loving Fiddler Everywhere. So I've been using Fiddler for a long, long time. I'm a big fan of Eric Lawrence's work, and obviously when they acquired Fiddler, one of the things that they decided to do was obviously make it multi-platform, targeting Electron, .NET, etc. Fiddler Classic, by the way, can work on Mac, but it utilizes Mono, and the GTK libraries are not up to date, and it crashes and all that sort of stuff. So the team at Telerik decided, let's build a fresh view of the world, and let's utilize technologies like Kenda UI, etc., to do this. And so Fiddler 3.0 everywhere, sorry, Fiddler Everywhere 3.0 is now out. I love the fact when you pull up Fiddler, you get that little banner, hey, new versions available, you want to download? I'm like, absolutely, thank you very much. And so the big announcements around this, obviously HTTP2 support. So this will notify you in that column that you've got an HTTP2 connection. This is good if you're trying to diagnose whether or not you're actually connecting via HTTP2 or 111.
Yep.
This is important because obviously you want to make sure you take advantage of the protocol. And so sometimes you can misconfigure a client and you're still using HTTP1 or 1.1, and you're like, oops, so I got to make sure I get that right. WebSocket support is another thing that they've added. You can now get a traceability in there. You can see the messages going back and forth. So if you're writing a chat server application or a game,
Signal
you
R,
can see all that
Blazor,
stuff
all
now.
those things.
Yes, absolutely. So good stuff. A lot of bug fixes have been added. A lot of the filters menu has been changed. So I'm using this quite a bit. So I filter on user agent strings and things of that nature. So this is a little bit different now. So lots of nice little added features to Fiddler Everywhere.
Yeah, Fiddler Everywhere's got the next generation UI on it as well. So it's all been updated. Doesn't have that Windows 95 look anymore.
No.
It's very modern.
Oh, hey, look, people love Fiddler, okay, and they don't care what it looks
don't
like.
get me wrong.
I mean, people love
awesome.
Wireshark. That thing is like from a UX perspective is a total abomination, but it's super powerful. The alternative that people might be looking at are things that like Postman or Charles Proxy is another one on Mac that's very popular. This one I think is a sweet spot. This is it does what it does really well, and it doesn't do that much, and it's just great for doing a proxy trace mechanism. If you're wanting to watch what flies across to and from your server endpoints, this is a great tool, worth the money. It's not very expensive, and definitely would recommend it. I've been using it for months, and I love it. I pay for it.
Yeah, there's like different tiers to this as well, but there's
yes.
some other cool stuff that goes in the Fiddler family now. So Fiddler Jam is cool. This is like a QA tool, kind of. So it's meant for troubleshooting. So basically, the client has a plugin that they run, and this helps you diagnose like HTTP traffic errors on the client machine.
Right.
And then you get kind of a readout of a log of the things that are happening, and you could replay those things and stuff. That is really cool. So it's like Fiddler, but remote on the client. So you don't have to test everything locally. You can, this could be hundreds of clients or whatever. You can reach out to them and work with them on issues and troubleshoot things. So that one's pretty cool. And then there's Fiddler Core. If you want to like put Fiddler technology in your apps to do things, you can get like the core bits that run on there. So there's like a whole family of this stuff now. It's really neat.
Yes. Yeah. So Fiddler Everywhere, I've been using it a long time, and big fan.
All right, John, publish ESM and CJS in a single package. I've done. Okay. ECMAScript modules in Commonjs.
Yes, ES modules in Commonjs. So for the longest time, we've been using Commonjs, and it still is used pretty much everywhere. But ECMAScript modules are sort of the future, and we're in this state. You know, when you grow your hair long, and it's kind of in that in between where it's like not long, not short, but kind of in between. That's where we are right now in terms of modules in the JavaScript space. Everyone wants to move to ESM, I believe, because it has some niceties associated with it. It has, tree shaking, etc., associated with this. The very popular frameworks like Svelte Kit, etc., have moved over to ESM.
HTML standard now.
Well, the thing about it is that Commonjs has been around forever, right? And so you would typically require components this way, whereas in the ESM, you'll do an import, and you'll import explicit types, or you can do import star and be done with it. The thing
Mhm.
about this is that oftentimes when you're publishing packages, it can be difficult because there are going to be folks who want to use Commonjs, and there are going to be folks who want to use ECMAScript modules. And so this article talks about how you can actually get the best of both worlds with tooling. And you can use UMD as part of this, which is our universal module definition. There are tools like TSUp, et cetera, that will help you create these packages and build your TypeScript libraries in a way that gives you um, this ability to publish modules in both formats. So it's really important that you understand this, because oftentimes you'll download a library via npm install, etc., and then you'll get this
Mhm.
crash and burn when you try and build it because it can't resolve the types that you're trying to qualify
Right.
within your source code. So this can be a challenge. It can also be a challenge if you're using technologies like Webpack, for example, because different packaging formats, etc. So
Mhm.
the long and short of it is that there are ways and approaches in which you can target this. Obviously, it would be great if we had one and only one module system. We're not there right now. We are moving, obviously, hopefully, to ESM. But yeah, until such day arrives, there's going to have to be these sort of workarounds. And so this article talks about the tooling and techniques you can use to do that.
Yeah, I think one of the big places you run into this is when you have a package that's not a like web front endy tooling thing, but more of like a business logic type of a thing.
Sure.
So it's not,
Yep.
it's not constrained by some UI in the browser, but
No.
it's, some generic business logic that you want to build and share. And somebody might have their npm or sorry, their node, application running the CJS format.
Sure.
And then, the web uses the ECMAScript format. So, you can't, it's usable in both platforms, but it's packaged differently for those two things. So I could see where this makes that sharing pretty easy. I remember running into this when I first did some Angular development, and it drove me absolutely crazy.
Oh
So
yeah, it's
yeah.
ridiculous. I don't. I have this. I'm lazy and stupid. I don't want to have to know the whole histrionics about this. Just do what I just please just do what I ask. Load the module. Let me run. Yes, it may blow up in IE, but
Will it blow up?
most things blow up in IDE, right?
Nobody should be using IE is the answer to that.
Right.
Nobody should be using IE.
Friends don't let
It's been
friends use
deprecated
IE.
for, yeah. Yeah, the answer is always yes to that question, by the way. It doesn't
Yes.
even matter the topic that we're talking about. It's yes. The
Right.
answer is that's the default answer.
Yeah,
Um,
so until we can get out of this sort of crappy situation we're in, we're gonna have to. Yes, I know. Yes.
I know. I know. I know. I actually proved, I think I might have told this story on the show before. I proved to the CIO of the last company I was working at that it was cheaper to buy iPads to support those users than it was to develop the application to be compatible with IE. I
Sure.
proved it out on paper. Like our dev hours minus the cost of iPads or versus the cost of iPads, the iPads came out
Yes.
cheaper per employee than,
Yes.
than the dev time did.
Yep.
Anyhow, moving on. Um, of course, it's going to pull up ads while I'm trying to do this. This is actually a video. It's better seen than read. So there was a hackathon for Facebook mixed reality, and this was one of the
Yes.
entries. I thought it was fascinating. So the idea here is, and it's black and white, this dog vision type of thing,
Yes.
because
Yes.
the Oculus doesn't have color cameras yet. I think we're
Okay.
waiting for what will be the Meta Oculus Pro or something like that
Right.
when that comes out sometime in 2022. Speculation, of course.
All right.
Should have color cameras so it can be more like a HoloLens type of experience. But keep that
Okay.
in mind as they do this demo here. So you're looking at black and white,
AR.
like
Yeah.
infrared
AR sort of. Yep.
view, yeah, of this. So this is a real environment in somebody's office, and then they're augmenting it with the Oculus. So this
Yes.
is pretty neat. So it can detect
Sure.
flat surfaces and things like that. So you can pretend to open up the roof of your office and look into the sky
Yes.
through through this mixed reality
Yes.
setup.
And
So
it points
I
out
think it's
constellations and planets and things of that nature, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but it's augmenting it into your living space. So this is
Yes.
imagine this with color cameras. I mean, this is going to be really neat. So you're sitting there in your
I,
office
I,
and
I
you put
can
these.
actually. This app exists
Yeah.
on the iPhone called Skyview. I love it. I use Skyview all the time. When I'm walking around, I just pull
Mhm.
out my phone and it's the same thing. They projects this star map in 3D space, and you can see you can just point it at a star in front of you. You can say, "Tell
Yep.
me that," and yeah, it's the same idea.
Yeah. So this makes you feel like you're there. I think that's pretty cool. So you can sit
I
in your
love this
living
stuff.
room
This
and
stuff's good. Yeah, I like
yeah,
this stuff. This is teaching kids, what's around. This is reality, etc. It's
you
good.
get that Zithra like feeling there. So I like
Yes.
that. That's really cool. That's why I said this mixed reality stuff is the next generation of things that we are going to see like be huge, like the iPhone was back in the
Okay.
day. All right,
Right.
so it's time. We're gonna play Doom, John.
All right. Who's playing it
So
now?
rats are playing
Good.
Doom.
Good.
This is like a science experiment, um, where they used
This is animal cruelty.
rats.
This is like
Maybe
this is like uh this is like Clockwork Orange where you got the eyes like pinned up and it's like what are we doing? All right, go on.
they built a rig. They built a rig so mice can play Doom or rats.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you've got like the
Rollerball.
spherical controller, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Um, so and they're not being harmed. It's a tiny sweater, by the way.
Yes.
They're wearing a
Well,
quote
that's
a tiny
debatable.
sweater
Uh-huh.
to help let them navigate the Doom hallways. I guess they made it to level 2 somehow. I don't
I don't
know
like this.
exactly how this is, but
I don't like
what's
this.
that? It's all
I
like
don't like
this.
this. I don't like this at all.
Just mad
That
because
poor
rats are better
rat.
at Doom than you are.
Well, yeah, everyone knows that, but I mean, I just don't like animals getting hurt. I know the animal's not physically getting hurt, but it is like, tied to this machine, and it's like, what am I looking at? So,
It I'm sure
ugh.
it gets a reward for exiting the level
A
or
pellet,
something.
yes, I know.
So,
I know.
yeah. So,
I don't like this.
yeah, at least they're, at least it's not like World War II and they're training them to like fly cruise missiles or
Well, they
something.
did that with pigeons, right? So,
Yep, they did.
you know,
You got the
mm,
reference. The
yeah.
crazy things that happened in the 40s. We'll digress and move on here, John. Keeping with the at least it's not Duke Nukem. I love Duke Nukem,
Yes.
but yeah, that'd be crazy for rats. The just bonkers things that people make with CSS. It just
Yes.
never ceases to amaze me.
Sure.
This is a really cool demo where somebody made a working Game Boy with CSS
Wow.
only, and it has like logic and stuff in it, which I believe is
All
also
right.
built using CSS.
So it's not a MAME
Um,
emulator.
no. This
Okay.
is you can do some pretty wild stuff with CSS. I didn't get to read into
Sure.
all this, but I think it's more than just artwork. I believe they did the logic in CSS as well. So you can like
Okay.
hijack inputs and checkboxes and things to make code run in
All
CSS.
right.
So you can see the full source code and stuff. You kind of Google for this thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. So this is here,
Wow.
and I mean it's just fascinating that they were able to get this detail on it. And the buttons all work, so you can play Snake, and I think the object here is you have to like touch the red dot, right?
Sure.
Is that
You
how
eat the
Snake
pellet.
works
Yeah.
without running into your
Yeah.
tail, that type of thing.
Yes.
So yeah, there's Snake and there's a maze game, and yeah, it's fully interactive.
Runs on the
I'm
GPU because it's
sure.
CSS. May not
Yep.
run in IE.
So if you go to
See,
twitter.com, the
continuing the
Angular
joke theme.
guy,
Yes, I know.
uh, it can't play Doom yet. Can't play Doom yet, but
No. One
but
day.
there's two games on there, Snake and Maze.
Yes. All right.
So I mean, this is pretty cool stuff here. I like this. This is
All right.
creative, very creative. Um,
You're the
and
rat with the pellet now. Cool.
exactly.
That's how they attract you with the pellet is the CSS. And now you're attracted to it.
Yeah, I've always been the rat. Always been
All
the
right.
rat. So it looks like okay. It looks like there is some TypeScript in here. So they
Yeah.
didn't do
Well, you have
all
to have a
of
little bit
the
of logic, I guess. You
yeah.
can't do everything in CSS, I would
You'd be
imagine.
surprised what people have done with, like I said, they can hijack some of the logical bits of a
Right.
an input, a
Yep.
toggle, and create just bonker stuff like it's Minecraft or something. But yeah,
Gotcha.
it's still pretty nice looking Game Boy there. Thought that was cool. And then I think this was you, John.
Yeah.
Raspberry Pi
Yeah, I'm a
plans.
fan of Raspberry Pi. I got one right here. This is one I picked up as a Raspberry 4, Pi 4, and these are great little devices. These are kind of general sort of circuits that you can use. You can put all kinds of software on them and use them throughout your
Mhm.
house and such. And you got a number of inputs, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, I guess it's a rumor or something like that, but a lot of people have been talking about it that Raspberry Pi plans to go, I guess, public or something like that. I don't know, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know if that's the case or not, but a lot of people are like, "Bye bye Raspberry," because like the whole notion behind Raspberry when it was first started was to get kids and hobbyists interested in computing, right? So you
Mhm.
have this very cheap, very affordable PC because you can hook up peripherals and all that, and then you would basically provide these to kids, and then they would have these sort of very low cost machines. And so the idea is that they're going to go for a listing now. So
Mhm.
I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens to Raspberry.
Yeah. Right. I just want to finish this up with a quick shout out to the C Sharp Advent calendar. I think we mentioned this last week or the week before, but tomorrow is December 1st, and that is the start of the calendar. So make sure you go to csadvent.christmas. This is a Matt Groves, his personal pet project for every end of the year here. And
Okay.
he's been doing it for 5 years now. And the idea is he gathers links to articles from contributors from around the community and releases two of those blog posts each day until
Right.
the holiday. So
Hmm.
this is really nice because you get 50 articles about C sharp or
Hmm.
something .NET related. And I have one coming on think that's Saturday the 4th.
Can you tell us what it
Yeah.
is, or you have to wait?
Yeah. So I did a show about this last week, actually, on the Blazor Power Hour. I wrote about how to test your components for accessibility with
Okay.
the BUnit test library. And I built out an accordion component that is fully tested for accessibility features and keyboard navigation, all of that stuff.
Nice.
So you can do test driven development at the same time as um, working on your accessibility features for your components. So I wrote about that.
Nice.
It's pretty lengthy read actually, but it was a lot of interesting stuff that happened in the experiment. Found some tripwires that you might hit when building components and working with ARIA attributes and things in Blazor. So you
Yep.
have to read to
Yep.
find out the
Yep.
details on that. That comes out this weekend.
Hmm.
Um, but every day you're going to get two articles, and then there's Sam Basu's got one coming. Lots of big names here. Chris Woodruff, good old Woody from the Deep Fried Bites podcast back in the day. Alvin Ashcraft, Calvin Allen, Michael Jolly,
Nice.
the bald bearded builder. We all probably know him. So really good stuff here. Don't miss it. It starts tomorrow and
Okay.
goes all the way through to nearly the end of the year. So
Merry
yeah,
Christmas.
yep, sounds good.
I
All
have
right,
a
John.
beer advent calendar. A
You do.
family member of mine, yeah, sent me a beer advent calendar. So
Nice.
I guess I have to start tonight. I guess I have to. It's like I'm
Twist
required
your
to
arm.
have a beer. Yes, I know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of cool ones. I think a good friend of ours, Jimmy Bogart, does like the whiskey bourbon advent calendar
I
every
did a
year.
gin one last year, and I
Did you?
hated it. Not because the gin was awful. It's just because having gin every day is difficult. So I felt like a hobo after a
Yeah.
while. I was just like, I'm ready to go on a train and travel the countryside, and I should be drinking this. Yeah, I don't know, drink this in a disheveled form. I don't know, because that was a drink of the train riders back in the 20s, I guess. So I don't know. I'm old,
Nice.
so I just didn't like it. Beer advent calendar though is very fattening, so I'm looking forward to the weight gain. So
There you go.
yeah,
You gotta
this is
bulk
not
up for
fattening though. The C# one.
those cold Australian summers.
That's right.
Because it's summer
Yes.
for you, so it's kind of
It is. Well, we're getting rained out right
reversed
now, so the
from us
entire
here.
eastern seaboard of Australia is completely flooded. As I've said before, Australia is like life on hard mode. You're either getting burnt to a crisp or flooded, or things are trying to kill you every direction. So yeah, it's a very difficult place to live.
It was funny. This came up randomly at the house the other day. My daughter said, if we were going to cancel any country, it should be Australia because of the spiders. And I
We get a
just
few of
laughed
them in
my
our
butt
house.
off
We
because
get big huntsmans in our house. They're kind of fun to play. We capture them and throw them outside because they eat the cockroaches. So they're good for that.
what
They're not
provoked her to
venomous
say
either.
this? By the way, I have
I
no
don't know.
idea. I don't even know why it came up. That
Yeah.
is the things children say.
Yeah, it's not the
All right,
spiders that will get you. It's more the snakes, I think, or the box jellyfish, or the great white shark, or whatever
all
else
of the
there is.
above.
So yes.
All right, John. Any parting words, my friend?
No, just we're coming up to Christmas and all that, and I know that you guys have just celebrated Thanksgiving, so always take the time out to consider playing with your kids and hanging out with your loved ones and all that, getting away from this tech stuff. But at the same time, this is a great opportunity to kind of sharpen the sword, so to speak. So take time out, read the articles here on the advent calendar, check out a technology you haven't looked at yet, but have always meaned to. This is a great time of the year to kind of touch up on your skills a little bit. And I know that you guys are writing a lot of blog posts at Progress to talk about that. There's lots of stuff that's coming out, obviously, over the holiday season here. So take a maybe as a New Year's resolution, say to yourself, "Hey, I'm going to learn one new thing this year, and it's going to help me improve my marketability from a skills perspective." Take a stab at learning Kubernetes. Take a stab at learning all that's new in C#10 or .NET 6, or maybe figure out modules in the JavaScript space. I don't know. It's a good time to do it.
Yeah, here's a place to start, right? Just read
Yes.
this. This is going to take you some time. That's
Sure.
50 reads right there. That's a
Yes,
good,
very good.
50 hours of entertainment probably. All right, John.
Which logo do you like better, by the way? I was looking at the two here, and I know that Microsoft's the one on the right. I don't know whose that is on the left, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
You
a
gotta
batch
improve
of
that logo.
these that
Okay.
like there's C++. I think somebody made a C# version of that.
All
And
right.
then there's this one over here. I don't know. They both scream developers made this logo, to be
Yes.
honest.
I fired up GIMP or Photoshop, or what is it, photo.net or whatever it is, and draw a circle, fill, C# text using Tahoma or something like that. Done.
Yeah. These both scream word art, but before I insult
Yes.
anybody, we'll call it a day. All
Oh,
right, John.
believe me, I have no
Thanks,
skills in that way. Yeah,
thanks again, man.
no worries.